The courtroom buzzed with a mix of tension and whispers as 24-year-old Jamal Carter stepped into the room. Wearing a slightly oversized suit and carrying a well-worn leather briefcase, he looked out of place among the polished attorneys in their tailored attire. His presence seemed to pique everyone's curiosity, particularly Judge Bernard Calloway, a stern and notoriously skeptical man in his late 50s. Jamal's client, a single mother named Carla Jennings, sat at the defendant's table, nervously clasping her hands. She faced eviction after a shady landlord accused her of breaching a lease agreement by housing her sister temporarily. With no money for a high-profile lawyer, Carla had turned to Jamal, who had gained a reputation in his neighborhood for his sharp intellect and unrelenting determination. Judge Calloway adjusted his glasses, sizing up Jamal with a condescending smirk. "Mr. Carter," he said, his tone dripping with doubt, "you're representing the defendant? Pro bono, I assume." "Yes, Your Honor," Jamal replied, his voice calm yet resolute. "I intend to prove my client's innocence." The judge chuckled, a sound that echoed across the room. "Well, let's see what brilliance the local legal prodigy has to offer." The landlord's attorney, a seasoned and smug professional named Daniel Reed, leaned toward his client and whispered something, prompting quiet laughter. Jamal caught the exchange but maintained his composure, refusing to let the mockery faze him. The opening argument. Reed began his case with flair, presenting a series of meticulously prepared documents and photographs that painted Carla as an irresponsible tenant who violated her lease. The evidence seemed airtight, and Reed's confidence grew with each passing minute. When it was Jamal's turn, he stood up, his presence commanding attention despite his youthful appearance. "Your Honor," he began, "my client is a victim of predatory tactics. The plaintiff has fabricated claims to force her out and increase rent for the next tenant. I will demonstrate this through evidence and witness testimony." Judge Calloway raised an eyebrow, amused. "Ambitious. Proceed, Mr. Carter." A surprising twist. As the day unfolded, Jamal methodically dismantled the landlord's case. He pointed out inconsistencies in the photographs and questioned their authenticity. Using a digital timestamp, he proved that one of the images presented as evidence had been altered. Reed's confidence wavered as Jamal continued to poke holes in his argument. But the turning point came when Jamal called a surprise witness, Mark Thompson, a maintenance worker employed by the landlord. Mark, visibly nervous, confessed under oath that he had been pressured to lie about Carla's alleged violations. "I couldn't keep quiet anymore," he said, glancing apologetically at Carla. The courtroom erupted in gasps. Judge Calloway's smirk disappeared, replaced by a look of grudging respect. An unexpected revelation. During a recess, Judge Calloway called Jamal to his chambers. "Mr. Carter," he said, his tone unusually serious, "where did you learn to argue like that? You're clearly not a standard law school graduate." Jamal hesitated before responding. "Your Honor, I couldn't afford law school. I studied on my own, reading legal textbooks, watching court proceedings, and volunteering at community legal clinics." The judge leaned back, his expression unreadable. "Self-taught, are you? Impressive, but I still need to see if you can win." As Jamal returned to the courtroom, his resolve only grew stronger. He was no longer just fighting for Carla, he was proving himself to a system that doubted him at every turn. Cliffhanger. As the trial neared its conclusion, Jamal prepared his final argument, one that could turn the tide entirely in Carla's favor. But as he reviewed his notes, Reed stood up with a sinister smile. "Your Honor," Reed said, "new evidence has come to light. I request a brief recess to prepare its presentation." The courtroom buzzed with speculation as Judge Calloway approved the request, eyeing Jamal cautiously. Whatever Reed had up his sleeve, Jamal knew it would be a game-changer. Would Jamal's preparation and brilliance be enough to overcome this unexpected challenge? The fight for justice. The courtroom returned from recess with a palpable tension hanging in the air. Jamal sat at the defendant's table, reviewing his notes with laser focus. Across the aisle, Daniel Reed grinned smugly, cradling a thick folder of new evidence. Judge Calloway adjusted his robes and leaned forward. "Mr. Reed, you may present this new evidence, but tread carefully. This case is already on shaky ground for your client." Reed stood confidently, his voice oozing with self-assurance. "Your Honor, this document is a signed affidavit from another tenant in Ms. Jennings' building. It corroborates that she violated her lease by harboring non-residents for extended periods." He handed the affidavit to the bailiff, who brought it to Judge Calloway. The judge scanned the document, his expression neutral, but his eyes narrowing slightly. Mr. Carter, Calloway said, turning to Jamal, "Do you wish to respond before I admit this into evidence?" Jamal rose, his posture firm but calm. "Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to cross-examine the witness who provided this affidavit." Reed's smile faltered. "The witness isn't present, Your Honor, but the affidavit speaks for itself." Jamal seized the opening. "Your Honor, without the witness here for cross-examination, we can't verify the claims or the conditions under which this affidavit was signed. I motion to exclude this document from evidence." Judge Calloway rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Mr. Reed, I must remind you that the right to cross-examination is fundamental. Do you have any valid reason why this witness isn't present?" Reed hesitated. "The witness was unavailable due to personal matters." Jamal pressed further. "Your Honor, I have reason to believe this document is a desperate attempt to salvage a crumbling case. If allowed, it sets a dangerous precedent for fabricated evidence." The judge leaned back, studying both attorneys carefully. Finally, he nodded. "Motion granted. The affidavit is excluded from evidence." Turning the tables, Reed's confidence visibly wavered as Jamal resumed his case. Calling on his years of self-taught knowledge, Jamal presented a series of emails between the landlord and a real estate developer. The emails revealed plans to evict long-term tenants like Carla to renovate the building and raise rents. "Your Honor," Jamal said, his voice steady, "this shows clear intent to use false accusations as a tool for profit. My client is being targeted not for any lease violation, but because of corporate greed." The courtroom murmured in shock as the emails were displayed on a large screen. Even Judge Calloway's stern demeanor softened slightly, a flicker of admiration crossing his face. Reed scrambled to object. These emails could have been obtained illegally. Jamal remained unflinching. "Your Honor, the emails were accessed legally through a public discovery request. I have the documentation to prove it." Calloway raised his hand to silence the room. "Enough. Mr. Reed, unless you have a compelling argument, I'm inclined to take this evidence into serious consideration." Reed sat down defeated. Closing argument. The room grew silent as Jamal delivered his final argument. "Your Honor, my client is a hard-working mother who has done nothing wrong. She was targeted by a landlord more concerned with profits than people. Today, we have exposed the truth. This isn't just about one case. It's about standing up to those who think they can exploit the powerless." Carla wiped away tears as Jamal concluded. The room erupted in quiet applause before Judge Calloway banged his gavel for order. "I'll review the evidence and render my decision tomorrow," Calloway announced, his gaze lingering on Jamal for a moment longer than necessary. Cliffhanger. As Jamal packed his briefcase, Carla approached him, her voice trembling. "Thank you, Jamal. No matter what happens, you've already done more than I could have hoped." Before Jamal could respond, Judge Calloway called out from the bench, "Mr. Carter, a word in my chambers." The courtroom stilled as Jamal glanced at Carla, then nodded. As he followed the judge into his chambers, he couldn't help but wonder what awaited him. Was it praise, a warning, or something far more significant? The judge's chambers. The heavy door to Judge Calloway's chambers closed with a soft thud, leaving Jamal and the judge in a room that seemed both imposing and intimate. The walls were lined with bookshelves crammed with legal volumes, and a large mahogany desk dominated the space. Judge Calloway motioned for Jamal to sit, his expression unreadable. Jamal obliged, his mind racing with possibilities. "Mr. Carter," the judge began, his voice measured, "I've been a judge for over 2 decades. I've seen attorneys come and go, some brilliant, some average, and some who should never set foot in a courtroom. You, however, are different." Jamal remained silent, unsure where this was heading. "I'll admit," the judge continued, "I underestimated you. When you first walked into my courtroom, I thought you'd crumble under pressure. But you've proven me wrong. Your argumentation, your evidence presentation, and your ability to stay composed under fire, these are marks of a seasoned lawyer." "Thank you, Your Honor," Jamal said, keeping his tone respectful but firm. "I had to work hard to get here." Judge Calloway leaned back in his chair, tapping a pen on the desk. "You said you're self-taught. Is that true?" "Yes, Your Honor," Jamal replied. "I couldn't afford law school, but I didn't let that stop me. I studied relentlessly, books, online resources, volunteering at legal aid clinics. I believed that knowledge and determination could make up for what I lacked." The judge nodded slowly. "You've proven that they can. But let me be clear, Mr. Carter, this system isn't kind to people like you. Without formal credentials, you'll face scrutiny and resistance at every turn. Are you prepared for that? Jamal met the judge's gaze, his resolve unwavering. I faced resistance my entire life, Your Honor. This is no different. For a moment, the judge said nothing, then stood and extended his hand. Good luck, Mr. Carter. I'll see you in the courtroom tomorrow. The verdict. The next day, the courtroom was packed, the air thick with anticipation. Carla sat beside Jamal, her hands trembling as they waited for Judge Calloway to deliver his ruling. The judge entered, his expression as stern as ever. In the matter of Jennings versus Lancaster Realty, I have carefully reviewed the evidence and testimony presented. It is clear to this court that the plaintiff's claims were baseless and driven by ulterior motives. A wave of relief washed over Carla as she gasped softly, tears welling up in her eyes. Therefore, the judge continued, I rule in favor of the defendant, Carla Jennings. The eviction notice is hereby nullified, and Lancaster Realty is ordered to pay damages for emotional distress and legal expenses. The courtroom erupted into applause, prompting Judge Calloway to bang his gavel. Order! Order! As Carla hugged Jamal, tears streaming down her face, Judge Calloway leaned forward. Mr. Carter approached the bench. Jamal walked to the bench, his heart pounding. You've done something extraordinary here, Calloway said in a low voice. I suggest you channel this talent into earning your credentials. The legal world could use someone like you. Jamal nodded. Thank you, Your Honor. I'll consider it. The aftermath. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed Jamal and Carla. Cameras flashed as questions flew. Mr. Carter, how does it feel to win your first case? Do you plan to pursue a legal career? Jamal smiled, addressing the crowd confidently. This case was never about me. It was about justice for Carla and everyone else like her who's been pushed around by people in power. I'll keep fighting for that, no matter what. As the reporters continued their questions, a man in a sharp suit approached Jamal. Excuse me, he said, handing over a business card. I'm from the Carter & Lewis law firm. If you're interested, we'd like to sponsor your path to law school. People like you are rare, and we'd be honored to work with you. Jamal stared at the card, momentarily speechless. Carla nudged him with a smile. Go on, Jamal. You earned this. Jamal looked back at the man and extended his hand. Let's talk. Cliffhanger. As the camera panned out, showing Jamal surrounded by supporters and opportunities, one thing was clear. This was just the beginning of a much larger journey. What challenges would Jamal face next? How would he navigate the road ahead as a self-made legal prodigy? The bustling city streets seemed brighter as Jamal walked out of the courthouse, Carla's heartfelt thanks still echoing in his mind. The card from Carter & Lewis burned in his pocket, a potential golden ticket to transforming his passion into a full-fledged career. But Jamal wasn't one to leap without caution. That evening, sitting at the modest kitchen table in his small apartment, he researched the firm. Carter & Lewis had a reputation for defending underdogs, often taking on cases that others deemed too risky. Still, Jamal couldn't shake a nagging thought. Why me? Why now? A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. It was his best friend, Malik, a community organizer who had been Jamal's staunchest supporter. I heard about the case, Malik said, grinning as he dropped a pizza box on the table. Man, you're practically a celebrity. Jamal chuckled. Let's not get carried away. There's still a lot I don't know. Yeah, but you've got what most lawyers don't, heart, Malik said, pointing at Jamal. And now you've got options. So what's next? Jamal hesitated, pulling the business card from his pocket. Carter & Lewis wants to sponsor me for law school. It's an incredible opportunity, but I don't want to lose myself in the process. I started this to help people like Carla, not climb a corporate ladder. Malik nodded thoughtfully. Then make sure whatever path you choose, it stays true to who you are. But don't sell yourself short, Jamal. You're already changing lives. The offer. 2 days later, Jamal found himself sitting in the sleek, glass-walled office of Carter & Lewis. Across from him sat Victoria Lewis, the firm's co-founder, a sharp, confident woman in her 40s with an aura of authority. Mr. Carter, she began, her voice smooth but firm. Your performance in that courtroom was nothing short of remarkable. We value people who challenge the norm, and you've proven you can do that. Thank you, Jamal replied. But I need to know, why are you interested in me? There are plenty of law school graduates out there. Victoria smiled. True, but most of them don't have your drive or your connection to real people. We see potential in you and we want to help you cultivate it. Of course, this isn't charity. It's an investment. We expect excellence in return. Jamal leaned forward. And what happens if I decide not to join your firm after law school? Victoria's smile widened. Then you'll owe us the cost of tuition. Fair trade, wouldn't you say? It was a straightforward offer, but it came with strings attached. Jamal asked for time to think it over, and Victoria agreed. But don't take too long, she warned. Opportunities like this don't wait forever. A call for help. As Jamal left the office, his phone buzzed. It was a call from Ms. Rivera, the director of a local community center where Jamal often volunteered. Jamal, she said, her voice urgent, we need your help. One of our families is being targeted by a payday loan company. They're threatening to seize their home over a predatory contract. We don't have the resources to fight this, but you might. Jamal sighed, his mind spinning. Another case, another fight for justice. But this one was personal. These were his neighbors, people who relied on him. I'll be there, Jamal said, determination hardening his voice. A growing dilemma. That night, Jamal sat at his desk, surrounded by legal books and printouts detailing the loan company's practices. The case was a clear example of exploitation, but it was also complex, far beyond anything Jamal had handled before. As he worked late into the night, a thought kept nagging at him. If I take the Carter and Lewis offer, I'd have the resources and training to handle cases like this more effectively. But the flip side was just as compelling. If I align myself with the firm, will I lose the freedom to fight for my community on my own terms? Cliffhanger. The next morning, Jamal stood in front of the payday loan company's imposing office building, a folder of evidence in one hand and resolve in his heart. He was ready to confront them, but the weight of his decision about Carter and Lewis lingered. Would he take the firm's offer and expand his reach, or would he continue fighting on his own, staying true to his grassroots origins? And could he win this new battle without sacrificing either path?